This week, I'm tapping back into my list of old friends. I'm very lucky that I happen to have so many interesting people that I've been able to make friends with over the years. This week, we've got a chap on called Princz. He was one of the partners of an agency called Agency Net. And when I had my old agency, iChameleon, bluntly, I saw them as like the other kind of cool kids, creative digital shop in South Florida. It was us two and Crispin being the kind of big, amazing creative shop in town. I always had a little bit of friendly competition with them and frankly, was always very in awe of a lot of the incredible work that they did. Now, he's actually come on with another great company, frankly, I think it's even better, called Wrecking Ball Media. Doing incredible work if you get a chance to check them out, from digital experiences to motion graphics, just really first class creative. You're going to hear a little bit about that today, because we're going to talk about frankly what it was like, as I see it, really reinventing what digital marketing and web experiences were like 10 years ago, and now thinking a little bit about what it's going to be like to reinvent them today and even tomorrow. So with that, welcome to another week of Oh Ship. Joey, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to Oh Ship.
Thank you, Freddie. It's so good to see you, man. It's been so many years, even though we're like 10, 15 miles from each other. I'm glad to be here, and thank you for having me as your guest.
By the way, there's so many years. I don't know if that just counts for COVID or actual time, because I was just saying with my wife that it's blurred together so badly that I was like, how long has this pandemic been now? Like 10 years? 5 years, a year, a month? I don't know anymore.
At least. I think my kids were 2 and now they're 20 something. So in a year.
You did a nice celebratory drinks and all the big holidays. They got a car. It's been very fast forward year. That's
everything
nice.
Compacted into 1 year. It's amazing.
Well, appropriate subject for I think a session today that I want to focus a little bit around. I think the progression of the web over time, and I think that'd be a good sense of fast forwarding here. But I want to frame up this conversation by talking a little bit for the some of the people that either know me well or know you well or don't know us at all, about actually what the web was like when you and I were doing this kind of stuff in the mid 2000s, and frankly both of us started even earlier than that. And the kind of digital experiences you saw, I guess, was like if you were an early Flash adopter, you were a technical guy, and thinking a little bit around basically what it was like when the web started to reinvent itself in the mid 2000s, kind of the birth of Flash, and also doing these kind of really bleeding edge digital experiences. And I'd love to just get a sense of like what it felt like. I mean, it was so different than everything else you saw on the web.
The mid 2000s, the early 2000s, it was literally like the digital Wild West, right? We had an idea and you figured out a way to make it. There wasn't school for it. There wasn't an instruction manual. It was really just a highly competitive market across the country, but you had these specialists and everybody shared information. How can I make something? How can I make something better? But you could take these designs that were in your head for any kind of a customer and build an experience that people were engaged with and would spend 5, 10, 20 minutes with, on a web browser or on a computer. It was unheard of back then, as opposed to today where everything is swipe and scroll and swipe and scroll. And it gets kind of boring, but back then when you had an idea, you had to build it, not only the design or the video, but you actually had to make the software to do something. So, whether it was a blog or an email campaign or collecting or whatever it is, or text messaging even, these services like MailChimp didn't exist, or Twilio, they didn't exist. So you had to make these platforms. And that was really amazing time.
I feel like almost back then too, there was a big sense of like everything was about first. Or certainly like you'd see something like, I've never seen anyone do something like that before. You're like, or you'd look at stuff and do like, how the hell did they do that? One of my favorites, and it's kind of obviously a classic digital experience, when you talk about sites like Subservient Chicken, and a well-known site in the advertising world. For those of you who don't know it or don't remember it, It was a Burger King, ad that basically you'd show up at a website. There was a guy in a chicken suit, and you could type in anything you wanted, and the guy in the chicken suit would do it. Now, to us today, no big deal. We could wrap our heads around that. But back then, frankly, it couldn't even been a live guy, but they had actually put, literally, I think hundreds, if not 1,000 plus video clips, and we're doing keyword matching and then queuing up these clips to make it look like it was live. That's such a big deal today, but back then, no one could wrap their head around that. A lot of people really thought there was some guy in a chicken suit doing all this kind of stuff for people, and it would blow people's freaking minds. And I feel like you would end up getting these clients to you, and they'd be like, because I think there was this big sense of like almost like virality. Maybe that's why people talk about viral marketing, which I kind of loathe on some level. But there was also this sense like, hey, if you did something big that no one had seen before, everyone was gonna share it with each other. And so you're always like pushing yourself to do something that just seemed a little crazy.
To the next. And you know what? I bet if we tried to make a subservient chicken now, it would take a lot longer without having flash technology, which is a shame. But that's a whole nother story.
One thing I want to just quickly segue over, I talked a little bit about your company, but I'd love for people to understand your background so they understand, your point of view on this, because you do have a lot of experience that really grounds your perspective in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, thanks. So it's different. So I was born and blessed to be born into the world of broadcast TV and telling a story in 30-second commercials for a family post-production business in New York. And we did for every major brand of Madison Avenue shops, commercials one after another. And the craft of telling a story before the desktop revolution, right, on film or tape in 900 frames, that was a craft and art. And I learned a lot from the Mad Men growing up. And then when the digital revolution started to happen, our desktop revolution in like 95, 96, we started to migrate from TV to interactive CD-ROMs, and we put video on the web by accident. And I'm like, oh my God, that was my oh shit moment where I'm like, this is going to change everything. But we were too ahead of the time. People didn't understand what the web was going to be in 96 and 97. So from there, though, we saw what the web could do. And again, with Flash, back in even 99, 2000, where it's a two-way communication to tell a story and be able to collect data and touch people that we couldn't ever do before, because TV then and still now, for the most part, is just the one-way medium, one-way communication. So having the gift of being able to tell the story and also being very technical, when back then in television, you needed to understand a lot of just technologies before the desktop revolution, it kind of combined and fused where I was able to have the gift of both, where I tell the story and understand the technology. And then when we had Agency Net and then rolled into Wrecking Ball, share these experiences with what I call the kids back then, although we're all older, the staff, of how to, why every pixel matters, why design matters, how something is architected on the back end or the data side matters, or even how the email campaign works or the text campaign. Everything has to work together really to tell that story, but using the technology in order to do that.
Did you? I can't remember. You didn't go to university for any of this stuff, right?
So I went to Hofstra University up in Long Island in New York. Graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Communication and Marketing and Management, but almost none of it had to do with what we were doing 2, 3, 4 years later. Completely different. Once the desktop revolution happened, all of that was, for the most part, thrown out the window. Fundamentals of how to run a business were there, or marketing or communication, but the actual how-to didn't exist like the people have today, these great schools.
I feel like, I dropped out after a couple months, and I think one of the main reasons, beyond me being a massive screw-up, is the stuff that I really wanted to learn, which was all early web stuff. No one was teaching it yet. So the only way to learn it was, like you said, you go online and you learn it from the people. You go to these conferences and things like that, and you try and learn it from each other. One thing worth noting, a quick shout out I want to give to one of the people watching the show right now, Ryan. Just gave a big shout out to your boy Web Agent 007.
I was just going to
say, he's a member of the Wrecking Ball crew, but for a lot of us early web guys, the Web Agent site was just like the site that everyone would go look at that portfolio, because it was just so bleeding edge and a huge inspiration to so many of us.
Yeah, agreed. I was going to roll back to the point about schools and how people teach each other, or self-taught really. Both James and I were self-taught in the world of web, and we met completely by accident through a mutual client. And together we're both goofballs. Mature a little bit today, more so, but goofballs. And James's skill set, it was just second to none. And after AgencyNet, we partnered together to form Wrecking Ball in 2007. So it's been almost 14 years now that he and I are together. And still to this day, it's really like, here's the brief and what kind of crazy ideas can we come up with and build something beautiful and digital. So with him and really the whole staff here, everyone's just A game, and it's like a big family.
It's nice when you kind of find you've got like a business soulmate like that. So I've got a couple of people that I'm very fortunate to have that kind of relationship with. So going back to where we were before, I feel like when we think about that time period, there was this sense that you were just breaking new ground. People, it was honestly, when talking as a business person and marketer, it was all about reach, really. Like people just like, how many eyeballs did you get on it? Analytics weren't very sophisticated. People were like, just how many visits did it get? I don't think really anyone gave a crap where they were, as long as you got them, you know. And I remember, pitching something to Motorola once that, where they're like, why is this going to work? And I'm like, well, because it's awesome. We're trying to reach people in the mid 20s. So like, how do you know it's gonna work? Well, I'm like, I'm mid 20s, so I think it's awesome. They're like, oh, okay, that seems reasonable. just go with it. It was just crazy. I think there was a wrote a check for $500,000 for this really bonkers website we did for them, and Motorola Red. But anyway, it's like you're doing these kind of bleeding edge things. I think it was arguably one of the most creative times, in marketing and certainly in the digital space. And then everything started to change. I think that, you had, I don't even feel like, actually, I'd love your take on this. I don't even feel like clients back then or brand marketers, you and I were certainly both on the agency side, and then I'm kind of on both sides of it now. But I don't feel like it was like every brand was doing it. I don't feel like it was about keeping up back then. But then I feel like it hit this point where it was like you either get digital or you're dead. And then there's this huge digital transformations that started happening within different organizations, whether that was the digital transformation of their staff and their team, or whether it was the technology stack that built the company, or frankly, it could even be their web experiences, because everything started shifting to about being social, and mobile, and then Flash, which we all have a laugh about now, but was an incredible platform for expression, if you want to call it that, basically died. I'd love to get your opinion on kind of like, you've lived through that transformation period and what it was like for you, and what kind of things you felt like you were seeing as this shift started to happen. I'd say, what are we talking about now? Like 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013? Because it's more like the 2012, 2013. Yeah, it started 2014.
It might have been a little earlier we started seeing the shift. So when we started Wrecking Ball 2007, was when XHTML, DHTML, dynamic HTML started coming out, and you could do more with JavaScript. And that was where we started to see, and mobile, where the iPhone first came out. So figure around 2010, you're right. The experiences started to change, where you went from the interactive experience and the sites that we like to make to more of the swipe and scroll. Really more things that were functional and more for business, and less about true engagement and the gimmicks, right? So Flash had a lot of the gimmicks where you can upload your face or upload a picture and do things with. So it was during those times that we saw the shift. And that's when we also saw a big shift, at least for us, with a lot of video being embedded into sites, where we started to get more and more clients with broadband and bringing a lot of the heavy video to customers that wanted to be able to do it that they really couldn't do before, aside from YouTube. We had YouTube, Vimeo, and then we started getting into platforms that specialized in video on demand technologies. And that was a big catalyst for us in the earlier years. And then across the way, the shift, while we did do a lot of things in marketing, a lot of what we started to build were tools for enterprise that helped them to run their business. whether it would be an extranet or an intranet back then, not really
Mhm.
sexy, but some of the things that we would start to build wound up saving companies, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, not in headcount, but being able to repurpose people to do things or do things faster. So
Yeah,
that's what
I
we
talk a lot about this idea of like technology making people superhumans, and not being afraid of AI and robotics and stuff, because I feel like the future is about people leaning into tech to make themselves hyper efficient. There could be as simple as a SaaS tool, but in the future, I really feel like it's going to be like automations and things that just let us do 10x the work or 20x the work that we can do right now.
correct. Yeah, a lot of the automation is helping, even just for the experiences, not only on the business backend side, but the customer experience also, as we're seeing now. There is a whole iOS 14 conundrum that's going on. How much data is private, not private? But what it does is enables people to have a more personalized experience. So it's good and bad. I don't want to share my information, but I'm not going to get the right content I want for me, as opposed to where you're still on a website or an Android phone. Yeah, I'm going to go to visit certain sites and I will get the right ads that are targeted to me. Unfortunately, you might have this too, where I can't turn the ads off after I buy the product. So it's great. You got me and I bought it, but I'm still seeing the same ad for like, a Michelin tire or something that I had to go look up 2 weeks ago to fix a flat.
So what defines, again, we've both gone through this kind of journey together. What defines a magical experience now? Like what is greatness to you? And I'm sure there's lots of different definitions of that, but I'd love to debate it with you for a minute.
All right. So there's I think there's 2 or 3 different things in my head that are greatness. So knowing that at the roots of who we are as a company, we enjoy the experience first. And with the JavaScript libraries that are out there, we're almost able to get to some of the things that you and I and our colleagues used to do. A guy by the name of Bruno Simon, who's an amazing JavaScript architect and 3D architect.
Is this the portfolio site with the truck in it?
Yes. The guy is amazing. That's the biggest transformative thing that I've seen in a while, outside of AI and VR and AR.
This thing is so zany. Okay, let me try something I've never tried before. Hold on a second here. I'm going to try sharing my screen. Let's see if our producer can pick this up. This is an oh shit moment here. We're testing technology.
That's it.
Okay, hold on. So for anyone that hasn't seen this, for any old school web people out there, I feel like this is the kind of stuff we used to do in Flash, and to see something this slick in a browser, this works perfectly in mobile, and it's just like it's a creative experience site for this guy. Big shout out to Bruno Simon. Never met the guy. Hopefully I will one day. But you can kind of drive this little truck around, and it creates all these little experiences. It tells you a story of its background. It's got little games in it. So let me see if I can get a.
Do it. Come on, strike.
Not bad. But it's got this just a fun little experience here, and I just don't feel like we see sites like this anymore, because I don't even know how people are doing this. This guy should win a prize for that, for sure. But anyway, too good.
I love it. This is what I'm talking about. These are the things that are it's just missing from the web, that are slowly, finally coming back. And Bruno, genius, what he did is he created a whole course, so people can go and deconstruct.
Do people crave this now? Like, I love this stuff, but like, I don't know what is this. Is there a niche for this? Because I know, I do it. Like, one thing I didn't think I'd be doing 10 years ago is I do a mountain of e-commerce stuff now, and everything is like optimized to death, because we're trying to eke out like even the tiniest percentage increases in conversion rates and interaction rates and profitability and cross-selling and all this kind of stuff. And there are design decisions that we make based on data that I, as a human being and a guy who loves design, hate, and make me want to punch myself in the face. But the money that it makes, it is not arguable. And so I get really torn between, like, is this the future, or is it that, or is it the reality is, it's not one solution for everybody. So why try and put everyone in one box? Sorry to answer my own argument there, but
very good.
You're like,
I
I
think it's
agree
a
with all of
hybrid.
the crap you just said, sir.
100%. No, it's a hybrid, right? This could be a lead gen or the experience for whatever the end result may be, and it might not be a purchase online. It might be something that's physical. It has to be on the in store or in person or brick and mortar, which is possible at times. Look at like the auto purchasing experience. Yes, there's Carvana and Vroom where you can go and buy your car online, but if you want to go touch it and feel it, and experiences like this, or even some of the other auto manufacturer sites are starting to use more advanced JavaScript and bring better experiences to the customer in their home, in their living room, in the toilet with the phone, right? It doesn't matter where you are. But being able to be the dreamer, to think about how can we design a better engaging experience and pull that person in so they can get some brand awareness and brand time. And then ultimately, if not right now at the moment, convert. It could be 2, 3, 4 days, but they will remember the experience that they had because it's so different. And I want to segue back to one thing you mentioned about, is this the right audience, or who is the audience for experiences like this? So my kids are 21 and 17. And back years ago, we had Howard Stern as a client, and we did a lot of campaigns with him and for him, microsites. And there was one called Shave the Beaver, but it was literally taking a razor and shaving the beaver. And my kids still ask about it. I have it archived. I bring it up once in a while, but 15,
But just to be
16
clear,
years
we are
later,
talking about an actual beaver.
an
So
animal, yes, a 3D animated character where you could shave it and paint it and wax it and all these things that we did with Howard, and it was fun. But it was an experience to go and engage and watch or listen to him on XM, or watch also on when he had his TV show. But not only did my kids ask, some of her friends or their friends ask as well, do you still have that archive? Why don't we see anything like this anymore? Everything is just an ad, or it's a swipe, or it's a quick video, or it's 10 seconds on TikTok, which is great as well. But it's just different. So I think there's a yearning or craving to bring back some experience in order to sell a product or be engaged.
The couple things that happened. One is, I think the web became very utilitarian. And so with utilitarian stuff, that's all about you. It's about speed and getting to their desired outcome. And I think there's this other side of it, which was the entertainment side of it, which is about immersive experiences, inspiring people, engaging them, building massive brand loyalty by making people fall in love. And that got shuffled down to a lot of social media garbage and videos because it was cheap and easy. Because I think one of the things with the web, in my opinion, that's really changed is it's such a voracious animal. It's so hungry that if you're a marketer, there's a sense that you need to keep feeding content all the time. And so people moved away from these grand experiences down to these less expensive, constant bite-sized stream of content. I remember actually even pitching this very strategy to Vitamin Water when we won their global advertising business at Sapien in whatever it was, 2013 or 14. And we moved away from these bigger, grander experiences. And I really hope that it comes back. I think everything is very cyclical, because everything you talk about, fatigue, experience fatigue, and frankly, ad fatigue. And to reach people and engage them, you've got to keep mixing it up. And I think we're both passionate about seeing more of the Brunos reach the world. One thing you said earlier that I think is really interesting. We were kind of referencing like the technology that underpins the web, and you see back in the day, it was pure entertainment. You'd see a lot of flash things. Now, as it became more utilitarian, it became super important to have technologies, whether it's in e-commerce platforms or even content management systems, to make things really easy and seamless. But there's like the whole new realm of tools that are underpinning like post CMS, like when you're trying to design these super advanced experiences that are out there. And I'd love to know, I know you work with some of that stuff. Can you got any kind of insight on where that's going and what marketers and business owners and frankly just tech heads should be geeking out on now?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the marketing automation is amazing. I'd love to find a poster of the thousands of different MarTech solutions that may or may not integrate with each other. But in its most simplest form, being able to bring the right message to the right customer at the right time, which you and I've talked about for years, that technology is here. And while we do work with different technologies, we can go do a WordPress site, we could do a headless CMS, we could do a site based off of just a JSON file. we like to use between Unbounce or even the Adobe Experience Cloud. And not that I'm out here to sell people Adobe Experience Cloud, but in looking at all the systems throughout the years, at least for enterprise, it works. And it really, really works where you can get the right message to the person, collect the analytics, collect the data, do the A/B testing, ABC testing, switch things in and out for how, and multilingual as well.
I want to dumb this down a little bit for people
Sorry.
who may not understand what we're talking about. And, is this concept that, and for the record, we talk about this technology being here now. The challenge is actually exponentially harder than when they introduced this idea over 10 years ago and couldn't really solve it. And it was actually an easier problem now. And I feel like they actually do solve it now. And it's 100 times harder. And that challenge is, as people, as consumers, as whatever, digital people living in a digitally enhanced world, there are like millions of little touch points of how we interact, whether it's outdoor signage, websites, mobile apps, text messages, app notifications, logging into advertising. I mean, just emails. It just never stops. And so trying to figure out how to seamlessly guide people and create a connected brand experience across all these things is shockingly hard. So I'm with you. I wish I actually had a chance to play around more with things like Adobe Experience Manager, because I think it is pretty incredible how they're solving some of these challenges. So have you been able to, and I don't know if you're able to disclose this kind of stuff, but have you been able to use it directly for any clients?
Yes, Adobe, actually, ironically, Adobe is a client of ours, and we do a lot of work with them.
If they weren't using their own tech, that'd be sad.
Using their own tech. So, we know if you happen to like Photoshop, we're serving you Photoshop content, or vice versa, where we'll look at complementary products and long tail content around and really get to the right message. But what's key is, you brought it up, what's key is to ensure that the staff that actually programs this stuff knows what they're doing, because there's plenty of times where we start our own micro series called What Not to Do. We find where, like, I'll get an email from Hertz, for example, abandoned shopping cart, and I'll go and click on, I didn't finish, but there's a 20% off coupon. Great. I got the coupon ID. I click the button, I log back in, I put the coupon in, and it says this coupon is not valid. I'm like, come on, man. Like, why? If you targeting me, and I'm ready to close the deal. Or even other times on my birthday was a great example from Best Buy. The 2-3 days before my birthday, I got a happy birthday card, got a coupon code to open up. I don't know what it is, right? So it gives a little of the mystery. Click this button to receive your gift. And I click it, and I get to the site, and it doesn't work. It's an error page. So I'm like, companies are spending so much money, already getting almost to the finish line, that they're losing customers by not closing the deal when they're already reaching out to them. Or like the last quick example I'll do is a great campaign that Lexus had on Facebook. Targeted ads, targeted material. They know I'm a customer from the past, so I get a lot of Lexus ads, and it was for one of their trucks. And because the pictures, the information, I'm ready to click on it. And as soon as I click on it to get more information, I'm brought to a price page of how much it costs per month for every vehicle, not the actual vehicle that I clicked on, that I wanted more information on, because I actually was looking for another car.
It makes me weep when I see it happen. So I get so upset sometimes that I actually find the people on LinkedIn and I just message it to them. I'm not trying to sell them anything. I'm not trying to even make them a customer. I'm just like, someone should tell you this has happened. I can't even remember what company it was, but I had one guy's ads. It was for a brand I really liked, a product I liked. I can't believe I'm blanking on this. But their ads were chasing me around the web forever, and they should have known I was a customer. And I just thought to myself, how many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year are these guys probably blowing on media trying to sell the same product I own because it was a big brand. I was like, someone's got to tell these people. Someone at that media agency was going to get fired. So I'm going to change gears a little bit. I want to be conscious of time.
Sure.
Love everything we've been chatting about is super interesting. I think you and I kind of joked. You and I could have talked for 10 hours without breathing. But you have a digital workforce. You've got a bunch of people that are digital experts that work for you. And everyone knows I'm very passionate about kind of the future of work. How has your craft changed? Certainly over the last couple of years in general, but really specifically, I'm thinking about the pandemic and the acceleration of kind of digital transformation that's happened there?
Yeah, so DT, digital transformation, two parts to it. First, let's get to the techie part, right? So we're starting to call it digital renovation, where as people have gone remote and are not in the office, they realize that systems that have been around 10, 15, 20 years that are still in the racks, racked hardware that is, are not easy to access. Or as staff has been working on some of these projects for 10 to 15, 20 years, that the systems are a little bit archaic and there is no plan B or a backup plan. So part of what we've been seeing since COVID is helping companies do their digital renovation. Take systems that are web systems that are 15 years old, running on Oracle in a rack, and migrating them to AWS, for example, Amazon Web Services, and providing services called DevOps, if you will, where we help them to do an inventory of everything that they have, and then help them formulate a plan how they can migrate to the cloud. And then even with that, look at the cost savings, because some clients were also saving them tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on licenses and just the way that technology is optimized. So that's one area. The other area is we've been remote or set up to be remote since the beginning of Wrecking Ball, where we used to go to meeting, because that was the only platform back in 2007 to be able to screen share. We had staff here in Fort Lauderdale and then in Tampa back then. But now we're all over the country. So we're in Fort Lauderdale, Miami. We had an office in San Francisco, but we closed that with the pandemic, and some of the staff moved over to Copenhagen, Denmark instead.
Do you, so, and I say this with a big smile, like, so you, culture is something that's always been really important to you. I'm going to say something kind of half teasing you as someone who I think also maybe thinks a lot about this thing the same way. You know, we've always had a lot of fun. And like in earlier agencies, drinking and going out and having a good laugh was always a big part of our culture. You've been Wrecking Ball for 14 years, and I always was deeply amused by the fact that your domain name was get wrecked. So now we've all had to slow down a little bit as we got older. But can you still get wrecked when you can't get together in person? Like, I'm obviously kidding, but it's like, how has that changed like the social dynamic of your culture? Which I think a lot of that was about like getting together and having fun, and obviously not getting wrecked. But you know what I mean? Like you know, how does it stretch the fabric of the business?
Yeah, it's been difficult. Going into the Miami office last week for the first time in a while, some of the desks are as they were back in March, where people literally left and went home and brought stuff home, but there's still sweatshirts and coffee mugs and food cartons where they left. I mean, we left it as is. It's standing still in time. We try to get together at least online as often as we can, which is difficult. We do have, at least with the engineers, once a month, a whole engineering day where everyone can get together and share or inspire about different things that they do. But it's definitely not the same where we would have our holiday parties or when we go on cruise together or dinners or lunches together. But at least in the Fort Lauderdale office here, people are coming in, and we are able to at least get together and see each other. But it's not the same. But we're on Zoom a lot together as we can be as well.
And seeing people is key. Would you say that has productivity changed at all, or do you think at the end of the day you guys are still kicking ass and taking names kind of thing on that front?
We're still kicking ass, taking names, but a little bit different. I've seen where, at least, look, we've always been lax, if you will, where as long as the things get done, do it as you need to.
People to live on their own terms, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are days where I know people are busy during the daytime doing some other things, which is okay, but and making up for it at nighttime. So it really depends on what people need to do. You know, checking on people as we can as well. You know, so some people it's isolation, at least it was in the beginning. So make sure that people are okay and the staff. But you know, even playing some like Jack in the Box. I forgot the name of the game, but you know, doing some group games like that. We have guest speakers come in as well from some other companies or other technologists. Or we had a physicist and mathematician a few weeks ago, which he's actually a marketer. But by the time we started speaking about all the engineering stuff, he was so enamored that he flipped his hat and started talking about, like, you know, wormholes and physics and speed of light and all these other things. So he that was pretty cool as well. So we try to do some different things to keep everyone engaged and together. And but this work's still coming in, and we still have a lot of challenging projects and problems to solve for the large companies. So I guess as a hobby, which this is for many of us, these new projects and challenges, it helps to pass the time.
Would you say that going digital and everyone being remote, did it make the communication skills of your team better or worse? And now, maybe not in the first month, but where were you now? Would you say it's same, better, or worse?
I think we're the same. Some things have improved, other things maybe slip a little bit because you can't just point to the person next to you and, I'm like pointing this way because there's an office right over there, and yell at them for something. So, Slack is a core of how we communicate internally. So we'll ping people that way. But yeah, some things are definitely better where there is more organization, more tickets, if you will, in the system. Other things,
It's funny.
it's not the same.
I feel like working remotely forced me to become a better communicator. I feel like one of the things that I picked up was I feel like working remotely forces you, and this advice I always give people, forces you to over communicate. And what I mean by that is, there's a sense and sometimes that people don't, they're like, well, if you can't see your staff or, you can't see each other, people are like, what are they doing? And I almost feel like this sense of like really making sure people are really aware of what I'm doing at all given time. So no one ever wonders or whatever. And so then that became like just a really good habit. And I kind of loved seeing all these status updates. It's like, for people from the engineering background, this concept of like a stand up in the morning where you kind of quickly talk about what did you do yesterday? Or what are you doing today? Do you have any blockers? And that kind of like, these quick updates in Slack, I love seeing them. I'm like, great, check. I don't feel the need to check in with them. I see progress is being made. And so I probably wouldn't have done that before. And I think sometimes when you're in an office with someone, I can think back in the day, I may not have given someone a status update for 5 days. And we could have been 3 offices away from each other. And I'd be like, well, you can see I'm in here. What the hell? You know what I mean? Like, there's some side of that. So. Well, this has been great, man. I actually was just thinking, I was like, I really hope that when this whole COVID nonsense goes away, that we get a chance to get together and we should all go do a big drinks night or something at the Chameleon Collective and Wrecking Ball, because so many of us are down here in South Florida. God knows we'll all be itching for for an evening out. And you're such a nice and interesting guy. And again, when things get back to normal, hopefully we'll see more of each other in person. But in the meantime, we always have Oh shit.
Oh shit.
Well, I want to thank everyone who's been tuning in and watching the show so far. This is something we do for fun. It's something we do for passion. We love getting on these inspiring leaders and sharing it with our audience. The best thing you can do to support us, give us a like, give us a share, tell your friends, spread the good word. And every week we see more and more people watch Go Ship. And honestly, that makes it all worthwhile. So thank you so much. And actually, a huge shout out to all the people that have been commenting inside all the different social platforms. We got Melanie DeVito here saying, love seeing Wrecking Ball on O Ship. Well, we love seeing Wrecking Ball on O Ship too. Thanks a lot, Jerry. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you again for coming.
Cheers, Freddie. Thank you.